her position on vote buying.
Hindi natin kinokondone yung vote buying. In fact, isa tayo sa matagal ng nakikipaglaban sa vote buying. Pero hinihingi natin sa ating mga otoridad na sana yung enforcement nito maging maayos.
Vice President Leni Robredo raised more than a few eyebrows when she recently told voters to accept money in attempts to win their favor but still vote by their conscience. While some say that advice is practical, others say it's plain wrong. Vice President has since clarified she is against vote buying, and she explains that much work needs to be done to enforce election rules on the ground. But how do we give enforcement of these rules more teeth? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to The Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay. Kasama ko po sa studio dito sa Mandaluyong, Ed Linggao of One News. And with us online, joining us from the Philippine Star in Manila, Ami Pamintuan. Ami, Bok, good evening.
It's a hot day.
Nakamute ka pa yata, Ami.
Nakamute ba?
Ayan, okay.
Okay.
Ano bang binabantayan natin? Balita.
Ano bang gusto mo? COVID eh. Yung mga minors, all minors daw, 12 to 17, umpisa na yung vaccination by November 3. Pero kung gusto mong politika, tinutulak ng PDP laban daw si President Duterte to run for the Senate.
Nako, sisiksik pa yung race for the Senate. Mamaya, meron pang makakabanggayan na makakausap natin mamaya.
Siya yung magka-campaign daw for, kung sakasakaling pumayag, siya yung mag-campaign manager si Vice President Go and of course, Senator Bato.
But something also significant, sabi ng Okta, si Dr. Guido David, we may be seeing less than 2,000 new cases nationwide by the end of November. That should be probably the lowest we'll be hitting since last year.
Tsaka ngayon pa lang, parang yung active cases ngayon, 50,000.
Yeah, bumababa na talaga.
Bumababa talaga. No? Parang, but before we leave and before we go to politics, one more item that caught my attention, Molnupiravir, kahapon lang pinag-uusapan natin, di ba? And pinag-uusapan na kung pwede yan mag-EUA, siyempre tinitingnan ng FDA. But in the meantime, habang inaantay pa yon, mukhang yung supply, meron na mga nag-iisip na nakapila na ang Pilipinas for Molnupiravir.
At teka, bago ko rin manimutan kasi pag-usapan natin mamaya yung vote buying eh. Yung dapat bang tanggapin ang pera pero iboto ayon sa iyong konsyensya. Merong statement si Senator Bato de la Rosa tungkol dyan. Sabi niya, illegal yung tumanggap ka ng pera at iboto mo yung hinihiling nila. Pero kung hindi mo naman iboto, pero tinanggap mo yung pera, estafa yan.
Talagang pagulo itong usapan na to. Sige, wag natin ipapaliban niya. Diretso na natin mamaya. Unang tanong natin yan. Let's begin tonight with Sorsogon Governor Francis Chis Escudero, who is seeking a return to the Senate in 2022 under the Nationalist People's Coalition. Gov, Senator, good evening. Mr. Escudero.
Good evening, Governor.
Magandang gabi sa iyo, Ed. Mami, magandang gabi.
Hi, sir.
Long time no see. At sa ating televiewers, magandang gabi din po sa inyo lahat. Good evening.
Sir, mamaya pag-usapan natin yung takbo nyo sa Senado, pero sumabak na kayo dito sa kaguluhan na to. Ano bang abiso nyo? Di ba? I won't ask kung legal. I mean, obviously, illegal ang vote buying. Pero Manny Pacquiao is handing out 1,000 pesos in cash, kaliwat kanan. And then yung sinabi naman ni Vice President Leni Robredo, hindi rin naman bago yun. Even Catholic bishops had been saying that before, di ba? Kung bigyan ka ng pera, itanggapin mo, basta bumoto ka sa konsyensya mo. Kayo ba, ano bang abiso nyo? Pagka inalok ako ng pera, tanggapin ko ba?
May mga nakalaban na ako noon sa lokal na pagtakbo ko sa aming lalawigan na nagbibigay ng pera. Ang pinaka-epektibong panlaban doon, pinapahuli ko. Pag may nasampulan, takot na lahat o karamihan gumawa o gumalaw. Pangalawa, yung sinasabi ni Vice President Robredo, yun madalas ang sinasabi sa eleksyon sa barangay o pag may tumatakbong mayor. Pero pag national na talaga ang scope, mabibigyan niya talaga ng iba't ibang interpretasyon. Kaya kinailangan niyang ipaliwanag pa yun. Yung ginagawa naman ni Senator Pacquiao, tulad ng sinabi ni Attorney James Jimenez, Hindi pa saklaw yon ng election period dahil magsisimula ang election period sa Enero pa lang yata. So wala siyang nakikitang mali ayon kay Attorney James Jimenez mismo ng COMELEC.
Wala pang nakikitang illegal. Di ba? I mean, to be clear, I mean, let me ask you
yan.
to put
Di ba
on your...
natin? Tama ka, Robbie. Tama ka. I stand corrected.
let me ask you to put on your lawyer's hat as well. Just to clarify with everyone, does that mean na essentially there is no such thing as early campaigning?
Technically, you are correct, Robbie. Dahil hindi pa naman nagsisimula yung election period, hindi ka pa pwedeng parusahan ng kung anumang paglabag sa anumang election code o election laws natin dahil hindi pa bawal yon. Nung simula, mas madali yon. Dahil yung last day of filing, yun din ang simula ng kampanyahan. Medyo naguluhan din ang marami dahil ngayon yung filing, ilang buwan bago magsimula ang kampanyahan. If you remember, Mami, Robbie, Ed, noon yung last day of filing, kinaumagahan, kampanyahan na. So pag file mo, kandidato ka na, lahat na nung bawal, applicable na sa'yo. Ngayon, dadaan pa yung Nobyembre, dadaan pa yung Disyembre bago yung mga pagbabawal ay mag-a-apply sa'yo. But the general rule still applies. Kung mamimigay ka ng t-shirt, bawal mong lagay na yung salitang vote. Kung maglalagay ka ng billboard, bawal mong lagay yung salitang vote. Lahat na nakikita yung billboard sa EDSA, sa South Expressway, sa North Expressway, lahat yon bawal na pagdating ng January. Maliban na lang kung gagamitin at ilalagay yon sa post, sa headquarters o HQ ng sino mang kandidato. Kaya kung mapapansin mo, Robbie, Ed, Mami, karamihan ng mga kandidato sa pagkapangulo o senador naglalagay ng headquarters sa EDSA, yung pinaka-busy na kalye sa Metro Manila. Dahil isang excuse yun na maglagay ng malaking billboard sa isang major thoroughfare sa ating bansa.
Sir, klaro naman na wala pang violation at this point. Wala pang election offense because wala pa yung election period o yung campaign period. That much is clear. Pero let me ask you this, not as a lawyer, pero as a voter, as a Filipino taxpayer, as a Filipino citizen, how does it strike you na all the candidates are already obviously campaigning and you also have candidates who are handing out money? I know it's not illegal, pero where does that leave us? How should we view this, in other words?
Ang para sa akin, I'll wear my hat as a political science student. Lahat ng ginagawa nila masyado pa rin namang maaga. Magsisimulang seryosong pag-isipan ng ating mga kababayan kung sino talaga iboboto nila, lalo na sa pagkapangulo, pagkatapos ng bagong taon. Kaya kung makikita mo, karamihan na nagdaang nating eleksyon, malayo ang survey bago magpasko at ang starting gun, ika nga, ng anumang halalan sa ating bansa. Magsisimula yan sa survey na ilalabas bandang Pebrero na yung fieldwork ay nasa bandang Enero. Dahil pag natapos ang New Year at Pasko, medyo mas dinidibdib na at siniseryoso na ng ating mga kababayan.
First quarter.
Yung kanilang magiging pasya kaugnay sa darating na Mayo.
Pero, Governor, you will concede na talagang may gray area siya, no? Unang-una, may Supreme Court ruling na eh. Effectively saying there's no such thing as premature campaigning. Ngayon, on the part of voters, lalo ngayon, magpapasko, it's a gift-giving time. I remember Manila Archbishop Cardinal Sin famously said, kung tanggapin nyo yung binibigay, but vote, well, that's exactly what VP Lenny said, no? Vote according to your conscience. Paano yun? Pagdating ng Pasko, nagbigayan, wala naman sinasabi, iboto nyo ako. Regalo ko lang yan sa inyo eh. Ano yung attitude nyo sa ganon? It makes campaigns very expensive, ha?
Ma'am, it makes it expensive pag hindi ka nakapwesto. Pero pag nakapwesto, karamihan ng mga mayor sa limbawa sa Metro Manila o sa labas ng Metro Manila, mamimigay palagi yan ng pamasko, hindi ba? Chargeable yan sa LGU. Pero bahagi ng ayuda yun ngayon dahil may kalamidad. Bahagi daw ng serbisyo na yun. Minsan nakalagay yung pangalan, minsan hindi. Pero alam naman ng tao kung saan galing talaga yun.
Picture na lang.
At the end of the day, my assumption has always been never underestimate the voter. Kung ang binigay mo ay galing sa munisipyo, alam ng tao yon at hindi niya gagamitin yung rason para iboto ka dahil nagbigay ka lang. Baka gamitin niya yung rason yun dahil baka pag nanalo ka uli, magbibigay ka uli. Bilang mayor, bilang governor, bilang local official. But the last thing any candidate should assume is that the voters are not wise enough to decide whether they use as a basis kakilala ko, kamag-anak ko, natulungan ako, may vision sa country, maganda yung plataforma. It's the freedom of each and every voter to choose the basis on who to vote for in the coming elections. And it's not for me, for you, especially me as a candidate, to underestimate the voter and say that he doesn't know what he's doing. The voter does know what he or she is doing. It's just that they have different reasons for voting for a particular candidate.
Okay, Senator, nabanggit niyo naman you as a candidate. So let's go to your run for the Senate now. I'm just curious. I've seen politicians going the other way, trying the legislature and saying, "Doon na lang ako sa amin, executive pa ako doon. We get to implement on our own. Hawak namin budget namin and I can do more." Kayo from the Senate, you go back to Sorsogon, you're governor, you have that position. What do you miss from the Senate and what's the difference?
The basic difference, Robbie, is una, sabi mo may sariling kaharian. Essentially, yung sinabi mo, sa totoo lang hindi. Natutunan ko yun ngayon. Alam mo ba na ang budget ng lahat ng LGU, barangay man, munisipyo o probinsya, kailangan aprubahan ng DBM kung may i-create kang item, kailangan aprubahan ng Civil Service Commission, at kung may nais kang gawin, kailangan aprubahan ng DILG. Hindi ko nakikitang totoo bilang gobernador ngayon. Yung tinatawag nilang devolution at kalayaan ng mga LGU. Pangalawa at ang pangunahing rason. Ano mang gawin ko sa aming lalawigan na kung gaano man kaganda, gaano man kaayusin ang aming lalawigan. Dahil may pandemya tayo ngayon, hindi sapat yung aming lalawigan na umangat lamang. Kailangan umangat yung iba't ibang lalawigan at yung buong bansa para makasabay sa pagangat ang aming lalawigan. At sa tingin ko, sa laki ng problema din, bawat sinong may pwedeng ialok, karanasan man, galing, talino o talento, iambag niya, alokin niya, para magamit ng buong bansa. Dahil para bilang gobernador ngayon at ama ng lalawigan, ang tingin ko, hindi aangat ang aming lalawigan kung hindi sabay-sabay umangat ang bawat lalawigan ng ating bansa o ang buong Pilipinas. Hindi kakayanin na kami lang ang maayos, kami lang ang masinop, kami lang ang malinis. Dapat yung buong bansa ay ganun din para sabay-sabay umangat yung buong bansa.
Sir, it's good that you talked about the issue of devolution kasi, tell me if I got this right. You were quoted as saying na you want legislation strengthening LGUs whose devolved powers under the law in this time of pandemic have been greatly undermined by decisions emanating from national government. Pero on the other hand, sir, we have had some guests here who have said na there's been too much devolution to the LGUs and that supposedly impacted yung ability to respond to the crisis. For example, some aspects of the DOH, yung health services, were devolved to the LGUs. That, among other things. May ganong comment from some people, from some sectors. How do you resolve that po?
Ed, before I entered politics, I was teaching at the UP College of Law, particularly the local government. Ang problema ko, wala sa batasin Lumabas itong mga regulasyon na binabanggit ko, yun dapat i-review, dapat aprubahan. Sa mga memorandum at circular na pinapalabas ng DILG, ng DOH, ng DBM, at hindi naman yun nakasulat sa local government code, na in a way, naging parte na rin ng batas dahil kasama siya sa implementing rules. Tama ka kaugnay ng DOH, pero sa totoo lang, Ed, bagaman devolved ang health, tulad ng agriculture sa ilalim ng local government code, ang health department o DOH ay meron tayong tinatawag na retained diseases. Kabilang sa retained diseases ng DOH ay 8 yun. Yung mga TB, AIDS. Ngayon, kasama sa 8 ang pandemya o isang sakit tulad nito na bagaman hindi binanggit at hindi specify, isang pandemya of national proportion. Retained disease yun. Hindi yan dinevolve sa mga LGU. Kaya lahat ng galaw ng LGU ngayon, yung pagpapakuna, yung requirements sa quarantining, yung requirements sa pag-RT-PCR, kung gagamitin ba ang swab antigen o hindi, lahat yan ang sinusunod ng LGU ay ang mga panuntunan mula sa DOH. Pero ang binabanggit ko ay, halimbawa, ira ng local government unit. Bakit kailangan aprubahan ng DBM, ng DILG, yung pag-appropriate ng LGU ng pera na para naman talaga sa LGU? Ngayon, kung assistance yan o subsidy yan galing sa national government, diktahan nila, maglagay sila ng menu, sabihin nila kung saan lang pwede. Pero kung ira yan ng local government unit, the local government unit must be free to decide what they want to do with it. Malayong mas alam ng isang mayor o governor kung anong kailangan at anong dapat gawin sa kanyang lugar kaysa sino mang sekretary gaano man siya kagaling na nakaupo lamang naman sa loob ng opisina niya sa Metro Manila na hindi man lang tumatayo o dumudungaw minsan sa bintana niya para makita yung kalagayan namin mula sa malalayang lugar.
Governor, nabanggit niyo yung IRA. We talked to some of the presidential candidates. Sabi nila, inaalala daw nila yung pag-uumpisa ng Mandanas ruling. Will take effect next year, which will make actually local government executives more powerful. Mas malaki daw ang pondo nyo. Ngayon sinasabi nyo na mukhang hindi yata ganun ang malalabasan. Ganun ba yun?
Yes, ma'am, and let me add to it, ma'am. Kung babasahin mo yung devolution order ni Pangulong Duterte, at inisa-isa ko yun sa national budget ng 2021 dahil line item naman ng budget, ang kabuuang dinedevolve nila sa LGU, ang halaga ay humigit kumulang 1.3 trillion. Samantalang ang dagdag na IRA na bigay ng Mandanas ay 655 billion lamang. In other words, they devolve double the amount of what they will be giving LGUs. Yung palang kukulangin pa rin palagi yung pondo ng LGU. Pangalawa, Ma'am, mas malaking problema nito ay ito. Ang IRA ay kinocompute palagi sa, alam nyo naman, 3 years before ng internal revenue ng pamahalaan. So pagdating ng 2023, nakabase yan sa internal revenue ng gobyerno noong taong 2020, na alam naman natin bumagsak yung ekonomiya ng 15%. Mula 7% GDP, mula 5% GDP, bumaba ng -9. So 15% na agad yung binaba ng GDP natin. Ano pa kaya yung revenue? Mas bumaba pa yon. So mula nung paakyating ka dahil sa Mandanas sa taong 2022 ng mga humigit kumulang 30%, pagdating ng 2023, sasadsad ang IRA ng mga local government units ng hindi bababa sa 15 hanggang 23% ayon sa ilang pag-aaral ng NEDA. So ang magiging problema ng LGU at ng susunod na presidente, paano niya tutugunan yung pangailangan ng mga LGU doon? Pinasa na ng devolution executive order ni Pangulong Duterte ang napakaraming functions. Babawiin ba uli yun pagbaba ng IRA? Medyo mahabang proseso ang ginugol ng LGU at ng national government para lamang pag-usapan yung devolution. Ano pa kaya yung pagbawi muli? Makakautang pa ba ang national government para punuan yung pagkukulang sa IRA? Tinetraining na ba ang mga local government units ng DILG, ng BLGF, ng DBM para sabihan sila na huwag niyong gagastusin yung dagdag na IRA sa recurring expenditure tulad ng pag-create ng mga permanenteng item. Dahil baka pagdating ng 2023, wala na kayong pang-sweldo sa mga empleyado ninyong permanente. Ito at ilang mga bagay ang dapat pinag-iisipan at pinaghahandaan ng sino man tumatakbo bilang Pangulo. Dahil pag-upo niya, tapos na ang budget call. June 30 siya upo, isasubmit ng budget in less than 2 months. Paano siya maghahanap ng humigit kumulang 600 bilyon sa national budget na hinanda na buwan bago pa siya naupo para punuan yung pagkukulang sa IRA ng LGU na mararamdaman mula 2022 patungong 2023. Sorry po kung medyo mahaba kasi yun yung iniisip at pinaproblema, tinahanapan namin ng paraan sa ngayon.
Well, kung mapapalik po kayo sa Senate, are you planning to introduce amendments para maayos ang ganyang mga bagay?
Yes, ma'am. Pinaliwanag ko na isa yun sa pagtutuunan ko ng pansin upang hindi rin naman masayang anumang natutunan o aral na napulot ko bilang local chief executive, bilang gobernador ng aming lalawigan. Na may Viber group kami ng mga gobernador, ang gantong sentimiento ay parehas sa maraming gobernador, kundi man lahat ng gobernador kaugnay sa mga problemang kinakarap ng mga local government units.
Governor, shift tayo. Politika naman tayo. I think if I'm not mistaken, you're one of around 5 senatorial candidates na, as I always say, dalawa na lang, bibingo na kayo. You're a guest candidate on at least three candidates for president. Where does that place you? How do you position yourself when it comes to people looking to all the candidates, especially the Senate candidates? Sinong i-endorse nyo? Sinong susuportahan nyo?
Miyembro ko tulad ng sinabi mo, Robbie, kanina ng NPC. Ang NPC ay wala pang pasya kung sinong susuportahan sa pagkapangulo at wala namang kumakandidatong NPC sa pagkapangulo. Wala pang pagpupulong kaugnay sa kung sinong i-endorse. Pero ang pagdesisyon ng NPC, Robbie, by tradition or historically, minsan nag-endorse ng presidential candidate. Minsan, dahil bihira naman kami magkaroon ng kandidato, sa totoo lang, mula nung kay Ambassador Cojuangco, wala pa namang sinulong na presidential candidate ang NPC. So, from endorsing a particular candidate as a party to letting each member decide who they want to support. Dalawa yung pinagpipilian ng partido dahil wala namang kandidatong sarili ang NPC. Pero usually, Robbie, nagdedesisyon ng partido mga bandang Marso o mga bandang Pebrero. Ang pinakamaaga yatang pagpasyang ginawa ng partido historically ay bandang Pebrero.
Pero hindi ba mas malakas yung kabig ng chairman nyo who is running as the running mate of Senator Panfilo Lacson?
Well, that is correct, Ma'am Ami. Senate President Soto is the president of the party. But to my knowledge, although I'm not part of the National Secretariat because I'm a local official, to my knowledge, the party has not yet made official its endorsement of Senate President Soto. Although I think it will come to that, but it has not yet been made official or made known to me to be official by the party.
Pero sir, some of the feedback doon sa pagiging guest candidate ng ilan sa inyo, sa tatlong partido, hindi masyado maganda yung feedback ng iba eh. For example, si former Commissioner Rene Sarmiento was saying it's bad for voters. The Ateneo Policy Center was saying it's an indication of how bad the political party system is. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Ateneo is probably correct, Ed, because quite frankly, I don't know what distinguishes one party from another.
Yeah.
Right now, we're slowly seeing what distinguishes one candidate from another. But if you speak of party distinctions, the party platforms of all the existing political parties, if you put it side by side, they will be almost alike or
Yeah.
very similar. But having said that, if you look at the history of our elections too, rarely, if at all, do people vote as a slate. People decide individually based on each candidate. In fact, historically, except for the victory of, or supposed victory, if I may add, of former President Arroyo and former Vice President De Castro, wala pang bumotong tandem na nanalo. In recent history, hindi pa nangyayari yun. I said supposedly because there were some questions with respect to that elections. Pero hindi naman bumoboto ang tao eh. Minsan lang nagkaroon tayo ng semi-block voting noong 1996 snap elections, pero hindi na naulit-ulit. If you look at it, people decide based on the candidates themselves individually and not really because they belong to a particular party.
Yeah.
Probably because, as I said, the Ateneo is correct, that if you look at the party platforms, the positions, the beliefs of every political party, very few distinctions exist that would differentiate one from the other.
Yeah. Ay, Governor Escudero, buti nabanggit niyo yan. As you said, di ba, parang pagkatingin naman natin yung program of action at saka mga plataforma at saka pangako nila, pare-pareho naman talaga. In fact, to the point that everybody says they are pro-democracy, everybody says they respect human rights, and everybody says they are for rule of law. Pero hindi rin naman po kaila sa inyo that one of the things that's being framed by the opposition right now and their supporters is they're saying na hindi, 2022, more than any other elections and in recent elections is going to be something that will determine our direction in terms of democracy, human rights, and rule of law. And diretso na po natin yan. They're saying that in the context of considering a possible restoration of the Marcos family, and they're saying it also in the context of a Duterte ally winning. Do you agree that democracy, human rights, rule of law is at stake on May 2022 more than all past elections?
They were saying that in the last elections, Robbie, as one of the issues, if I remember correctly, against President Duterte. But still, he got the plurality of votes and became and is our president. These are valid issues that can be raised against a particular candidate given their history or given their family's history. And to my mind, it's part of the political discourse. If you try to look back, Robbie, halos magkaedad yata tayo.
Nauna lang kayo ng isang taon.
Lahat ng eleksyong panguluhan sa ating bansa, ang sinasabi ng karamihan dyan ay, this is a make or break election. This will decide. I first heard that nung nakiisip ako noong 1986. Kada presidential election naman, yun ang sinasabi. And quite frankly, I agree with it. Each presidential election is a very crucial election because it will be the direction our country will be taking for the next 6 years, which, given the pandemic, may indeed be a make or break, not only for human rights, not only for our democracy, but more especially for our economy and the lives of our people. So in that sense, I think it is even more crucial now because democracy is always under attack under any president, given the powers given by the Constitution to the president, which includes a declaration of martial law, which includes calling out the armed forces of the Philippines, which includes wielding his power and influence to affect court decisions or courts or judges. That is always a possibility. But now more than ever, we're faced with two additional problems. the economy that's slowing down, if not has fallen already, and number two, the pandemic, which hopefully we will be able to survive. And going back to what you said, Robbie, imbis na negatibo, ang iniisip ko positibo na nagkakaroon ng sitwasyon kung saan may 3 o 4 na presidential candidate na nagkakasundo sa ilang kandidato sa iba't ibang posisyon. You won't be surprised that there are several governors being supported by the same presidential candidates. There will be several congressmen supported by the same presidential candidates. For me, instead of it being a negative thing, it's actually it actually may be a positive thing. Why? Kasi kung pwede naman pala sila magkasundo sa 1, 2 o 3 tao, sa 10 tao, baka naman pagkatapos ng eleksyon, sino man ang manalo, posible rin magkasundo sila para sa 100 o 110 milyong Pilipino na mas malaki ang pwede nilang pagkasundoan at pagtulungan. Sino man ang magiging Pangulo, I assure you, hindi sapat yung siya lang, yung grupo lang niya, yung partido lang niya, yung kaibigan at kakilala lang niya. Kaya kailanganin niya, sino man ang manalo sa kanila, ng tulong ng bawat isa. Kasama na yung nakatunggali niya sa nagdaang eleksyon. Kasama na yung mga partido na tumira sa kanya na nagdaang eleksyon. Yun lamang yung tanging paraan para mas mabilis sana magalawan at maresolbahan natin yung mga problema ang kinakaharap natin.
Governor, yung mga party, pare-pareho halos plataforma, pero yung mga kandidato, iba-iba. Ano ba yung isusulong nyo sa kampanya nyo? Siyempre, you have to stand out, di ba? Do you have main advocacies na binabalak na i-pursue?
Dalawa lamang actually, nabanggit na natin at napag-usapan natin kanina yung kaugnayan ng kapangyarihan, buwelo at mas malawak na diskresyon sa parte ng mga local government units. Dahil ang paniniwala ko ang susi para sa ekonomiya at sa kalusugan ng ating mga kababayan ay sa pamamagitan ng LGUs. Ngayon pa lamang nakikita na ng DOH yan, kaya unti-unti nilang dinedevolve. Nasa simula pa lang sana, pwede naman nilang nagawa na. Pangalawa, Ma'am Ami, ang paggamit ng national budget ng tama. Bilang senador, bilang congressman, ang pinaka-importanting piraso ng batas na ipapasa nila ay ang taunang national budget. Ito ang instrumento na makikita mo na agad. Ito ba ang tulay para bumangon yung ating bansa? Ito ba ang tulay para magbigay ng sapat na lunas sa anumang karamdaman o pandemya na kinakaharap ng ating bansa? Yon ang pangunahin kong tututukan at siguro naging mapalad ako at nagkaroon ako ng karanasan na maging Finance Committee Chairman at masusing na pag-aralan ng budget at nakita ko ang kapangyarihan ng national budget bilang instrument of growth, bilang instrument of healing, at bilang instrumento para matulungan ang mga lugar na kailangan naman talaga ng tulong.
Sir, I understand that you're calling for the suspension of excise taxes on crude oil products because of the yung tuloy-tuloy na pagtaas ng presyo ng langis. Can we afford that? Ang sabi ng DOF, 131 billion pesos na pagkalugi doon sa
Let me clarify. Kung ang excise tax ay fixed at ang VAT ay fixed, ang VAT nasa 12%, ang ine-estimate natin nakikitain mula sa 12%, kung 50 piso lamang kada litro ang presyo ng gasolina, ay estimado na rin. Ngayon, pag tumaas yung presyo ng gasolina, yung percentage tax na makukuha ng gobyerno ay mas malaki rin. In other words, with every price increase, the government will have a windfall. So sana yung windfall na yun ang ibaba. Para sa gayon, yung expected, yung projected na kita nila base sa percentage tax na yun lang din ang makukuha nila. Hindi yung kasabay sila sa pabigat sa ating mga kababayan. In that sense, you had 2 birds with 1 stone. Yung projected revenue ng gobyerno, yung target, mamimit pa rin, nang hindi sila nakakadagdag sa pasanin ng sambayanan kaugnay sa mas mataas na presyo ng gasolina. Ang pangalawang estratehiya, sinusubukan ng gawin ng pamahalaan ngayon, yan ay pagbibigay ng subsidy. Yung pangatlong paraan na pinag-aaralan na rin ng gobyerno ngayon ay yung pagpayag ng 100% capacity. Dahil alalahanin natin, tumaas na nga yung presyo ng gasolina, tapos limitado pa sa 30% yung laman ng mga jeep. Limitado sa 50% ang laman ng tricycle at gayon din ng mga bus. So may bawi sila kung papayagan na mas malaking porsentahe kung ligtas na nga ba o hindi ayon sa ating mga eksperto upang sa gayon ay maibsan yung pagtaas ng presyo ng langis sa panahong ito.
Okay. Sorsogon Governor Francis Chis Escudero, tumatakbo po ulit sa pagkasenador under the Nationalist People's Coalition. Governor Chis, maraming salamat po.
Ingat, sir.
Maraming
Mag-ingat
salamat
po
po.
kayo.
Nagandang po sa inyo lahat. Thank you po.
Please stay with us at Chiefs. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Chiefs here on One News, and now joining us is COMELEC spokesman, Director James Jimenez. Sir, magandang gabi and thank you for joining us.
Good evening po.
Good evening, sir.
Naku, marami kaming gustong pag-usapan sa inyo ngayon. Idirect ako na, sir. Ididiretso ko na. Well, klaro naman na hindi pa campaign period, so wala pang election offenses, kumbaga. So yung vote buying and all those things, they're not yet on the table. Pero yung tanong ng maraming tao, I suppose at this point, what can we do? What should we do? What should be done? Dahil everybody's out there already campaigning, tapos namimigay pa ng pera.
Right.
So clearly, hindi bawal, pero what's our recourse?
Well, the best thing po talaga is to amend Republic Act 9369. Ano? Yan yung nagsasabi na ang mga election laws na pwede mong isita dun sa mga kandidato pwede lang gamitin kapag nagsimula na yung campaign period. Pag naamyandahan yun, babago lahat ng landscape, no? Mawawala yung kanilang parang wild west na nangyayari ngayon.
Pero so that's not gonna happen in this Congress anymore. I mean, I suppose wala nang
Well,
oras for that.
definitely not this Congress anymore, yes.
So gusto niyong ipalit na upon filing of candidacy.
Yun po ang isa sa mga sa mga proposed bills no na kung hindi ako nagkakamali sa Senado nang gagaling na ang change will be that they will become official candidates upon filing, no? Kasi pag nangyari po 'yan, pag official candidates na sila, lahat ng pagbabawal mag-a-apply na sa kanila.
Campaign. So kailangan isabay diyan yung amendment din sa substitution, no?
Well, that would probably be affected po also, no? Kung gusto nilang isulong yung amendment sa substitution, because remember, ma'am, kahit noon pa man may substitution na. Nandiyan na po 'yan dati pa.
Pero sir, lawin lang natin that I guess that creates at least a reasonable time na tatahimik after you file. But that also just moves the old practices earlier in the game, hindi ba? I mean, people can then still be giving away money before the filing.
Well, totoo naman po 'yan, ano? Kumaga sabi nga nila, if you have a 10-foot wall, I'll build an 11-foot ladder. So ganun po talaga ang mangyayari niyan. Uurong lang, aaga lang ng aaga. But then again, kung masyadong maaga, baka naman wala nang kwenta yan pagdating sa halalan kasi matagal na. No? Nalilimutan din ng tao kung sino yung naging generous sa kanila.
Sir, I do recall a bill filed by the late Senator Miriam Santiago, yung SIRPO bill, kailangan mag-file ng Certificate of Intent to Run for Public Office ang kandidato 6 months before the actual filing of COCs. And upon filing of the SIRPO, hindi na siya pwedeng mga panya. And I mean, covered na siya ng election offenses.
Yun po yung proposal ni dating Senator Miriam Santiago. That's correct, no? Pero hindi ko alam kung na-take up yan or if someone has actually decided to refile that, wala ata. Medyo mahirap po kasi i-operationalize yung SIRPO. I don't know how much traction it's going to get in Congress kasi syempre wala namang gustong maipit 6 months ahead of time kung tatakbo ba sila o hindi. Tingnan mo nga ngayon pa lang, di ba?
Sige. In any case po, we're all now trying to look ahead to May 2022. Maybe bring us up to speed on what are some developments and for that matter, what are some new things that we are able to put in place?
Well, one of the things that we did over the last weekend was we had a simulation, no? We had a simulation of voting dito sa San Juan Elementary School and we saw na may mga may mga innovations tayo na talagang pwedeng gumana. Halimbawa, yung isolation polling place, no? That was a good strategy that we saw and it can be implemented. Magkakaiba lang siguro kasi maraming tao na nagugulat na yung IPP walang VCM, no? VCM po stands for vote counting machine. Wala pong vote counting machine dun sa IPP or isolation polling place. So again, one of the learnings from the last simulation is that this is something that we have to communicate more aggressively to the public. Isa pa po yung ating voter assistance desk na pilot test na po natin yun sa Palawan, pero tinignan ulit natin dito sa San Juan and we saw na talagang nakakapagpabilis siya ng proseso, no? Yung proseso of discovering or of verifying the identity of the voter was cut down tremendously. We have the time and motion studies being analyzed now, pero talagang mukhang significant, no, yung napabilis. Anywhere on the order of maybe from like going from 10 minutes naging 3 minutes na lang, parang ganyan. No? So malaki talaga yung nawalang oras.
Ano, just to be clear po, ano po yung innovation
Yeah po.
dito? What exactly is the key thing here?
Yung voter assistance desk po kasi, that's kumbaga that's an assisted searching, no, of a person's precinct assignment and sequence number. Precinct assignment, that's which classroom you're supposed to go to, and the sequence number is what number you are on the list of voters. Because po, one of the things na hindi na-appreciate ng maraming tao or hindi alam ng maraming tao is that when you talk about a precinct on election day, that's actually composed of anywhere from 3 to 4 precincts. And bawat isang original precinct may sariling book of voters. So pag pupasok ka dyan at hahanapin mo yung pangalan mo, 4 na libro ang paghahanapan ng pangalan mo. No? So that's very time consuming. With the voter assistance desk, dun pa lang, malayo ka pa lang sa classroom, chine-check na yung iyong lugar doon sa classroom na yon. So pagdating mo doon sa classroom kung saan boboto ka, meron kang kapirasong papel na nakalagay doon kung ano yung precinct assignment mo at ano ang sequence number mo. That way, yung electoral board, they just flip open to that page and then good to go ka na. So it's very fast, sobrang facilitated yung proseso ng pag-identify ng botante, nakakaboto sila kaagad.
What about yung isolation polling place? Ano yung rationale doon? Parang hindi ko masyado maintindihan.
Yung isolation polling place po, yan po yung pinaglalagyan natin ng mga tao na may mga matataas na temperatura or nagpapakita ng sintomas ng COVID, no, or well, any sickness. So doon po sila dinadala para hindi sila kasama doon sa general population.
Ay, pandemic response pala yan.
Yes po, ma'am.
In the meantime, you are deliberating on the candidates na nag-file. Ang sabi niyo noon up to 90% yata ng mga kandidato will be declared newsstand. Gusto na po yung trabaho mo, kung mahirap-hirap yung trabaho mo yan.
Medyo marami na pong nakikita, no, na identify as potentially matatanggal. Pero syempre, we're waiting for the final date, which is November 15. Yung mga substitutions pa kasi. But this early nga, nag-identify na isa-isa. Because as we noted before, no, marami namang unang tingin mo pa lang, medyo may idea ka na kung saan siya makakategorize. No? Basically, we're identifying those now. At the same time, Ma'am Ami, meron din mga nagwi-withdraw. No? Halimbawa, yung pag-withdraw nga ni Kabayan, halimbawa. And there are others pa. No? So, lahat po yan, medyo influx pa tayo lahat, na naghihintay pa tayo na mag-settle yung mga kandidato.
Sir,
Sinabi po kami ni Senator Bato magkakaroon daw kayo ng legal problem kapag yung basis nyo yung bona fide intent. Sabi niya, paano nyo naman malalaman kung may bona fide intent o wala yung kandidato? Sabi niya, are you going to look into his heart? Sabi niya, ano bang opinion nyo sa ganong?
pusong bato siya.
Ever since naman po, no? I mean, not to address Senator Bato directly, but ever since naman, noon pa yung standard na yan eh. And always it's been a process of discovery, no. Aalamin mo, kaya mo nga kakausapin yung tao eh. Bona fide intent to run for office is just the same as any other fact that you have to find out, no. Depende yan sa actions niya, depende sa mga ginawa niya mula nung final niya, halimbawa yung kanyang COC. Kasi pwedeng sabihin ng tao na meron siyang bona fide intent, pero lahat ng kilos niya says otherwise. So COMELEC will have to make that determination.
Sir, still on substitution, well, klaro naman yung November 15 na pwede ka mag-substitute kung kapartido ka or I suppose kung kaalyado ka. Pero my question is this can a candidate be sworn in as a last-minute party member just so he or she can be a substitute to somebody who already filed the COC? Kumbaga, pwede bang last-minute party membership to take advantage of substitution?
Yes, sir. Wala po kasing pagbabawal dyan sa mga pagtalon-talon ng partido, no? It's one of the things that actually was the subject of a lot of talk about political party reform. Kasi wala po tayong prohibition against turncoatism. So yung bigla-biglang pagpapalit ng partido just so that you can run, that's still possible and it's still allowed. So, applying that to substitution, yes. On November 15, pwede siya magpalit ng partido and then biglang mag-substitute. Pwede po yun.
Okay. Sir, let's get to how COVID is affecting all of these things. One is, I understand you're now considering that the presidential debates be hybrid. No? So, how will that work? So, yung mga kandidato, sama-sama, face-to-face.
Opo. Yung kandidato will be in person. They'll be facing off each other on with each other on a stage. Pero yung audience nila will be virtual, no? Online yung audience. Nakikita natin to as a logical response to the pandemic kasi delikado nga naman pag may mga supporter ka, lalo na pag debate yan, syempre hindi mo maiwasan magsisigawan ng mga tao.
No, but in the meantime, they're going on with their own respective political rallies anyway, or are there restrictions? What are the new restrictions there as well?
Well, that's the problem kasi, Sir Robbie, no? I mean, the restrictions will kick in February. It's not even gonna kick in now, and they're doing all of their campaigning now. Kaya nga po, nananawagan kami sa mga kandidato naman, please be more circumspect about how you do your campaigning. Kasi posible naman, it is possible to hold mass gatherings in a safe manner. And unfortunately, hindi natin nakikita all the time na ganun ang gawa nila.
Mr. Jimenez, marami ding nagtatanong hanggang ngayon, final na daw ba yung delivery contract niya with F2 Logistics of Dennis Uy? Kasi, at saka nag-aalala siyempre, dahil malapit siya sa administrasyon, nag-aalala sila, is tampering daw possible? Can you address these concerns?
Ma'am, to my knowledge, yes, na-award na yon. So that's pretty final. Second, is it possible for the goods to be tampered with in transit or upon receipt? Medyo malabo po yan because meron tayong tracking system, no? We check the shipment before it's loaded. We check the shipment upon arrival. And normally naman, hindi tayo nagde-deliver like just on time. May ano po yan, meron po tayong requirement under the law that a day before the elections, magkaroon tayo ng tinatawag na final testing and sealing, which means that the day before the elections, alam na natin if the machines are in working order. So kung may magka-problema man, there is still enough time to actually remedy the situation. Again, yung delivery naman po, may mga witnesses din naman yan. So may COMELEC personnel na sumasama sa mga deliveries natin at definitely nagre-receive ng mga deliveries. So wala po siguro dapat ipangamba.
Okay, sir, let me ask some questions also. Let's get into some concerns of voters also, again related to COVID. And we talked about this before as something that is a bit more complex because even local candidates are also concerned. Yung question of paano kung abutan kami ng granular lockdown or let's say kalye namin or for that matter barangay namin declare na may COVID diyan, kailangan i-granular lockdown that. Malinaw na po ba yung mechanisms and protocols with the LGUs? Because one of the things that candidates for local positions are saying is baka ma-gerrymander kami dito sa lugar namin. That could be used as a strategy to disenfranchise certain blocks.
Well, we think that's a valid concern. We do think that's a valid concern. And we've raised it with the IATF na po. And then we're hoping that they'll have a solution for us soon. Pero alam ko sa ngayon, wala pa pong lumalabas na bagong guidelines tungkol dyan. Pero definitely, na-raise na po namin yung concern namin. One of the things that gives us hope is of course the declaration that elections are essential activities. No? Na talagang it should continue regardless of lockdown status. But we'll have to wait for the IATF to formalize all of these things, especially yung rules on the granular lockdown. Yun po kasi yung medyo medyo kumbaga nakaka-worry ng konti kung hindi malinaw yung rules because some local officials have actually said na kahit sila, hindi sila nalilinawan 100%.
Sinabi niyo po sa amin, you are drawing up guidelines related to the pandemic and related to the campaign. Meron na po ba kayong any particular issue na klaro na sigurado nang i-implement for safety?
Ma'am, malapit na pa kasi ilabas eh. We're looking to release it by the end of October. So siguro hindi ko na lang muna pangungunahan.
No.
Pero sir, kahit broad strokes lang. We won't say it came from you.
Well, we've discussed a lot of it naman na po, no? Yung particularly yung regulations on the sizes of physical gatherings.
Yeah.
No? One thing that that is for sure is that we're going to allow physical gatherings, pero one of the things po kasi na nagpapatagal dito ay yung bagong introduce na level ng sistema ng IATF. So we are going to have to fit that into our vision of how campaigning is going. But ultimately, ang effect niyan kasi is that it will impact on the sizes of crowds that are allowable. No? Sa ngayon, ang pinag-uusapan talaga natin ay yung enforcement mechanisms and yung potential for penalties. No? Paano ba natin to parurusahan pag lumabag? No? Apart from the question of paano ba natin masasabing lumabag, ang question is, pag lumabag nga, anong parusa natin? So, yan po yung finalize nating discussions.
Paano naman po sa online? Ano pong mga bagong patakaran natin sa online? And for that matter, how much control are you confident that we will have to keep the social media platforms, especially something that does not disrupt and something that as much as possible cannot be gamed?
Well, the good thing about social media is that it's not really that disruptive on an individual level because you can always turn it off. I mean, don't go online, right? I mean, unfortunately po kasi wala pa ring bagong guidelines patungkol sa gamit ng social media or ng internet even for political campaigning. So, nandun pa rin po tayo sa level kung saan ang nare-regulate natin ay yung kanilang gastusin lamang. Pero wala pa rin tayo, katulad ng makukumpara natin halimbawa sa broadcast na may time limitations, wala pong katumbas na regulation sa social media pa rin.
But do you have the capacity to monitor? You've said repeatedly you are in touch with the platform, with the platforms, and they've in public said, diba, with all the heat they've also gotten, that we want to be helpful, we want to be part of the solution, not be part of the problem. But to that end, I mean, are they what's being discussed to try to at least keep that platform also? Those platforms also, the integrity as something that we can vouch for as well?
Well, one of the things that I can talk about is, for example, there are platforms that require a user to be a verified user before they're able to, say, promote ads, right? We're riding on that system. Kami din, i-require din natin yan, no? na may mga ganyang klaseng verification ng identity nung mag-boost. So to that extent, yes, mababawasan yung mga bigla-biglang nagpo-promote ng mga post na kung sino-sino. Kasi nga ngayon, alam mo na, identified mo na sila. And kung identified mo na sila, pwede mo silang singilin, di ba? Pwede mong sabihin, bakit wala yan sa SOSE ng kandidato? Para sa iyo yung ad na yan. So that's now possible.
So if we apply it to, let's say, apply it to an example, let's say myself. Let's say may sinusuportahan na akong kandidato. Nakita ko yung ad nila. Sila gumawa nun, but kusang loob ko, buboost ko to. Bigyan ko to ng 100 pesos, buboost ko to sa mga friends ko. But that will then go to your records and it should go into the SOSE and I, as well as the candidate, should be able to account for that?
Well, in theory, yes, that's how it would work, no? But whether or not you will be considered as part of the campaign, yan yung i-determine ng ating campaign finance office. Kasi nakabase yan dun sa behavior mo. So kunwari, sabihin natin araw-araw kang gumagawa niyan, then there is a very high likelihood na i-consider ka ng part ng campaign, no? An undeclared part of the campaign. And that means that certain regulatory rules will apply to you. Whereas, makikita din natin, kung ikay casual supporter lamang, nag-boost ka lang, paminsan-minsan, walang pattern of regularity, then posibleng hindi ka naman singilin. Pero at least, alam natin kung saan nanggagaling yung pag-boost.
Pero sir, that's... sige po, go ahead.
Nung hinahandaan yung rules dahil lalabas na by November, is there any chance na some of the rules will apply even before the official campaign period starts? Pwede ba yan?
That's unlikely, ma'am. That's unlikely. Ilalabas natin na maaga para mapag-aralan ng mga gagamit, no? But whether or not it's gonna apply prior to the campaign period, that's unlikely po that it would. No? Again, because the law says any rule that applies to the candidates will apply only at the start of the campaign period.
Saka pag itong mga bigayan, gift-giving ngayong Pasko, out kayo dyan.
Hindi kami kasali diyan, even though alam natin na kami ang sisigawan ng taong bayan diyan.
Yes. Okay.
Well, sir, I'd like to go back to yung online ads. Kasi so far, you've talked about yung monitoring the frequency of these ads and therefore how much would have been spent, as well as what platforms they were spent on. Pero what about the production of the ads themselves? What about the production of the output themselves? I suppose kasi medyo mahirap malaman kung magkano ginastos niya para ilabas yan, para i-produce yan for YouTube or Facebook, at ilan sa mga supporter na yan ang binayaran o are under a payroll.
Kasama po sa requirements ng ating Campaign Finance Office ay mag-submit ng mga resibo at ng mga kontrata yung ating mga kandidato, particularly yung mga tinatawag na contractors. So if you see a candidate with a well-produced ad, you know that there's a contractor behind it, and that contractor will have to submit their records to us, and we can discover that.
But what's to stop them from undervaluing that? Or what's to stop candidate from saying these are all volunteers who are doing this promotion for me?
Well, because even volunteer value is
it's
considered,
valuated.
no?
Yeah.
Yes po.
Okay. Comelec spokesperson James Jimenez, sir. As always, maraming salamat po. We know you're very busy.
Thank you very much for having
Yes, sir.
me.
And that's all for this special edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Ami Paminton of the Philippine Star.
I'm Ed Lingao, and we are One News.